It is a case that most New Mexicans thought was long over and done. A series of murders during a 4-year period that were so gruesome, so senseless, they shocked police and prosecutors. The killer, a man who they call a monster who kills for fun, was caught and convicted. But News 13 investigative reporter Larry Barker has discovered that is not the end of the story, or of him.
My name's Robert Fry.
Robert Fry is clearly a murderer. Cold-blooded murderer.
I am in for 4 counts of murder.
He's just a wanton killer.
And I'm currently serving 3 life sentences, and I'm on death row.
He chose victims that needed help. He chose people that were defenseless. He's a monster.
Meet 23-year-old Bobby Fry. As seen in this 1996 home video, he appears to be a low-key guy, and sometimes the life of the party. Whether yucking it up on Halloween or a balloon fight, Bobby Fry's antics appear to be just harmless play. But don't let these images deceive you. The facts are clear. Bobby Fry is a vicious mad dog killer whose trail of blood across San Juan County led to the savage beating deaths of 4 victims. His weapons of choice included knives, a broomstick, and a sledgehammer. Today, Bobby Fry ranks as one of New Mexico's most heinous serial killers. How could anybody be so evil? Ask former San Juan County Assistant DA Joe Gribble.
You want me to give you some about who he is or what he's about? There's no way I know, but I'll tell you this. Based on the facts of the case, there's no question. He's a cold-blooded murderer.
Former Assistant AG Steve Settle was also a prosecutor on the Fry case.
He's that brutal. He's that unsocialized that apparently for him, killing's just fun. Picking a random victim and killing them just for fun. There's no robbery here. There's no motive of monetary gain. There's no motive of past acrimony. He just kills people. And apparently he enjoys killing people.
Bobby Fry's murderous rampage began on Thanksgiving 1996 at a Farmington head shop called The Eclectic. He wanted to eliminate witnesses to a burglary, so Fry murdered and nearly decapitated 25-year-old Joseph Fleming and 18-year-old Matthew Trecker.
They were beaten, had their throats cut. They died violently, very, very violently.
2 years later, Fry and a friend, Leslie Ng, met 40-year-old Donald Sosi at a Farmington bar and offered to give him a ride home. Instead, they lured Sosi to the rugged backcountry near the Arizona border. Sosi was from Ganado, Arizona, here on the Navajo Reservation. It was an April night 15 years ago. He was beaten, robbed, kicked, hit with a shovel and a broomstick. Then he was shoved off a cliff. His body was found a month later.
They poked his eyes with a stick and injured him further after they'd beaten him, and he died sometime later, left in the desert.
And then there's Betty Lee, a 36-year-old Dene Community College student at Shiprock.
It's not easy to come to terms with the fact that she's gone.
She was always bright and accommodating and sociable and cheerful, so she had always had a smile on her face.
Betty Lee's nightmare occurred on a June evening 13 years ago. She was stranded without a car and needed a ride home. Bobby Fry and a friend offered to help. They drove her to this desolate spot in rural San Juan County, and then, without warning, viciously attacked the mother of 4.
It's probably a woman's worst nightmare.
Fry co-defendant Leslie Ng was interrogated by detectives.
Bobby first struck her hair and pulled her out. She yelled, "Why me? Why are you doing this to me? What are you doing?"
I can't even imagine what was going through her head during this time. And then he stabbed her. And then Betty Lee was able to pull a knife out, escape. Then he went to his car, got a sledgehammer, chased her down and killed her. I couldn't imagine a worse situation for anyone. It's a horrible death.
You said she screamed when you hit her with the sledgehammer?
Yeah, he was swinging it. And she just stopped after a couple times he was swinging it.
They beat her to death for absolutely No reason. One of those crimes that just defies explanation in terms of why would anybody do this if it wasn't just for the fun of it.
Bessie Key is Betty's sister.
I'm just really scared. I don't think it's safe to live in this world if you know what the men did to her.
Philip Joe is Betty's brother.
Think about what she endured during the time that the assault was taking place. I can't picture somebody doing that to her.
Following his conviction for the deaths of Trecker and Fleming, Fry was handed 2 consecutive life prison terms. For the murder of Donald Sosi, he was sentenced to a 3rd life sentence. And for killing Betty Lee, a jury ruled 28-year-old Bobby Fry be put to death. That was 11 years ago.
For more than a decade, attorneys have been fighting hard to keep Bobby Fry out of this room. And even though the Betty Lee murder conviction was upheld on appeal years ago, his execution date still cannot be set due to creative manipulation by his attorneys.
He's not facing death in the near future. It's not likely that that sentence will be executed anytime soon.
Before a death sentence can be carried out, the case must be reviewed twice. First, by the New Mexico Supreme Court, and secondly, by the federal courts. However, in Bobby Fry's case, none of that has happened yet. You see, his legal defense team has put up one roadblock after another, and Bobby Fry's death sentence has been on hold for almost 10 years.
In this case, who is responsible for all the delays and the extensions, court extensions?
The defense.
The victims of this case and society in general deserve to have the penalty assessed carried out. It was the law at the time, it was properly applied, and people should be concerned that someone can delay that through maneuvering for this many years.
For the last 11 years, Robert Fry has bided his time inside Santa Fe's maximum security prison.
There's nothing I've done that God has not forgiven me for.
These days, he strolls the prison halls, Bible in hand, telling a TV reality show he's a changed man.
You hear a lot of people who come to prison and, oh, I found God. Well, I did.
Is Bobby Fry remorseful? Oh, we don't know. Here's what we do know, however. Along a rutted dirt road in San Juan County's rugged backcountry are some faded flowers, a small memorial to the memory of Betty Lee, murdered on this spot 13 years ago.
It just seemed like yesterday that she left us. And it was really brutal, you know, what she had to endure. We just want to just put this behind us and make sure that justice is done.
It's been very hard. She was Dad's favorite girl.
The punishment that he has been given, I believe, is righteous. It is not my right to say he should die, but the level of evil that he has committed makes it hard to try and reason for forgiveness.
He was convicted and sentenced to the death penalty in 2002. It's now 2013. Has justice been done in the case of Robert Fry?
Not for the victims and not for the victim's family.
You reach a point, I think, Larry, where because of your behavior, you cease to have the right to live among the rest of us.
Is Robert Fry one of those people?
I think Robert Fry, based on this record and what I know about the case, is one of those people.
Larry Barker, KRQE News 13.